Shabbat Shalom to you all. Lovely to be back together with you. And I hope you're doing well and you're healthy in these difficult times, and particularly at the end of quite a complicated and rocky week. So now let's take a look at a posuk in this week's Parsha. I want to look at that posuk together with you and see if we can understand it. You know that Avraham Avinu, at the beginning of this week's Parsha, entertains three guests. We know that they're angels. We'll talk about that. But let's look at the posuk that describes the meal that Avraham Avinu served to the three angels. He took the cream and the milk and the calf that he had prepared, and he put it out in front of them. And he stood over them, he was under the tree, and they ate. This is Posuk in Bereshit, Perek Yud Ches, Posuk Ches. Now, the truth is, it's very, very strange that the Torah is giving us the menu. Let's think about it. The Torah is the Torah. It's a holy book. It's not a cookery book, and it's not a food magazine. It's giving us the menu. Abraham fed the guests, and they ate. That's all that the Torah needs to say. What's the big deal? And why do we need to know what they ate, or the fact that they ate at all? And as it turns out, it's very important, because Chazal tell us that these were not regular people. They weren't regular guests, as I mentioned earlier. They were angels, and they didn't need to eat, because angels don't eat. They're not physical, and therefore they don't need to ingest food, because they don't need nutrients. They're spiritual beings. They don't need to eat. In which case, why does it say Vayochelu, that they ate? What is it talking about? Now, the Talmud, the Gemara, is very bothered. In Baba Metzia, it talks about this particular question, and it offers a few different approaches as to how we can understand that the angels ate. I want to look at the Gemara together with you and see what it says. Omar Rab Tanchum bar Chaniloi. Rab Tanchum bar Chaniloi said as follows: Le'olam al yishana odom min haminhag. A person should never change himself from the procedure, from the custom of the place he is in. Shari Moshe olo lamorem. Moses went up Mount Sinai and he spent time with God. V'lo ochal lechem, 40 days and 40 nights, he didn't eat bread. He never ate. Malachi Ashares yordu lamata v'ochlu lechem. And the angels of heaven, they came down to Abraham, to Avraham Avinu, and they were his guests, and they did eat bread. V'ochlu sokadatach. So the Gemara asks, are you suggesting that the angels ate? They actually ate? It looked as if they were eating, but they weren't actually eating. And we learn from this incident that a person should never deviate from the conduct of the place that he is in. When Moshe went to heaven, he didn't eat bread for 40 days and 40 nights, because it's not a place where you eat. And when these angelic figures came to visit Abraham, they ate. They were in the home of Abraham and Sarah, and they were being looked after by them, and they were required, and they did eat bread, because, and whatever that means, we don't exactly understand what that means, but whatever it means, they needed to participate in the custom of the place that they found themselves. The Talmud goes on to describe how whatever Avraham Avinu did himself for his guests, there was a tit-for-tat result, a positive impact for the Jewish people when they were in the wilderness. I'm going to read you the Gemara. Om Rav Yehuda Marav, Kol ma she'osav lebalachei hashoris be'atzmai, osa Kodesh Baruch Hu levanav be'atzmai. Everything that Avraham Avinu did himself, God did himself for Abraham's descendants. V'chol ma she'osa Avram al yidei shliach, osa Kodesh Baruch Hu levanav al yidei shliach. And everything that Avraham Avinu did via a shliach, a servant, somebody who worked for him, via a messenger as it were, then God only did it via a messenger for Abraham's descendants. Abraham himself ran towards the calf to make sure that they had the meat. The ruach nosa me'es Hashem. The pasuk says that the meat that came to the Jewish people in the wilderness came as a result of a wind that Hashem himself blew. He took cream and milk. You know what it says? Hineni mamtir lachem lechem min hashamayim. God himself provided bread from heaven. In every aspect that Abraham did things himself, God did it himself, as it were, for the Jewish nation in the wilderness years. And he stood for them under the tree. Hineni oimed lefanecha sham al hatzur, and so too God stood for the Jewish people, as it were. V'Avram halach imam leshalcham, and Abraham went with them to send them. V'Hashem halach lifneim yoimam v'layla, and God went before them day and night. Yikach nam at mayim, and finally, take some bread, he instructed to his servants. In that sense, it's only a shliach who was going to give the water later on. Remember what it says, in fact, a story that caused all kinds of problems for Moshe Rabbeinu and for his brother Aaron. Ve'kisa batzur ve'yotze mimenu mayim v'shosa ha'am. And that was the first occasion. Moses, he was the shliach on that occasion. He hit the rock, and later on he hit the rock, even though he should have spoken to the rock. He was a shliach of Hashem to bring water, and that was a reflection of the fact that Yukach Noma at Mayim, that Avram Avinu had told the shliach to bring water to the angels when they'd come to visit him. Now, it's a cute Gemara. Let's not mess about. It's a very nice Gemara to create this juxtaposition between what happened in the story at the beginning of Vayeira and what happened much later on in the wilderness with the Jewish nation after they came out of Egypt. But what is exactly the connection between Avram Avinu here with the angels and the wilderness years, as it were, of the Jewish nation before they came in to the promised land? Why was it that because of what Avram Avinu did, that later on God provided them with man, for example? Avram was constantly involved in acts of kindness. This wasn't a new thing. Why is it specifically on this occasion that we create this connection between what Abraham did and what happened later on with his descendants? And there's a Gemara in Brachos that detects a seemingly irreconcilable difference between two psukim. And the Gemara says as follows. It's two psukim from David HaMelech, from King David in the Psalms, in Tehillim. And one verse says, we say it in Hallel, Hashamayim shamayim lashem, v'ha'aretz nasan livnei Adam. The heavens are the heavens of God, and the earth is given to man. But we have another pasuk that says, Lashem ha'aretz umloya. To God belongs the entire earth in all its fullness. So which is it? Does the earth belong to man, or does the earth belong to God? The Gemara answers this question. And the Gemara says one is before the bracha, one of the psukim refers to before making a bracha, and the other one is after the bracha. Let me explain to you the simple meaning of that answer. You have an apple, and before a person makes the blessing on something, it belongs to Hashem. It doesn't belong to you. It's part of God's world. Why? Lashem ha'aretz umloya. But then, when you make the blessing, it becomes yours. It belongs to you. Now you can eat it. Just as when a person is in a grocery store, the food belongs to the store owner, until the shopper swipes his credit card and pays for it, it doesn't belong to him. Making the bracha is like swiping your credit card. Now, when you eat the food, it belongs to you. It no longer belongs to Hashem. It becomes v'ha'aretz nasan livnei Adam. So, there's an alternative approach. And I want to suggest it to you and then reconnect it to Parshat Vayeira. And it's as follows. It's beautiful, by the way. It's really, really sensational. You know something? That the Talmud is actually non-specific about which of the psukim, these two contradictory psukim, refers to the before and which one refers to the after. Therefore, we could say that before a person makes a bracha, it is, as it were, an earthly apple. It belongs to earth. It's not spiritual, it's not special. But after he recites the bracha, it becomes a heavenly apple. The entire world and its fullness are electrified with the knowledge of God because of a seemingly banal blessing. Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? It's an amazing idea. I believe that this idea is also reflected in the interchange between the tent of Abraham and Sarah and their angelic guests. After eating from Abraham's kitchen, it became heavenly bread, lighting up the world and revolutionized the universe. He fed angels. He changed history. The angels realized that heaven has a place here on earth, that there's a Lashem ha'aretz umloya, even though ha'aretz nasan livnei Adam, a spiritual oasis in an otherwise lonely and arid wilderness. As a result, Heaven reciprocated and fed the descendants of Abraham and Sarah in the wilderness when they were stuck in a physical wasteland, once they had formally accepted that God was their guide and God was the creator God of the universe and of the world. My friends, we have a chance of turning our wilderness world, into the heavens of God. We can do it, you and me. We can absolutely do it. Don't allow the downbeat, depressing actuality of our world to convince you that this is the way that it needs to be. We owe turning our world into a place that's heavenly to the future generations, to show them that it can be different. It's up to us. And I just know that we can do it. Shabbat Shalom.